I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda or any subtractions?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, first up, we have a public hearing and discussion. Bill, I need to open a public hearing for this, or?
Yes, that's correct.
I'll open a public hearing to discuss the Centerville Lions liquor license.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just a brief introduction. The Lions are requesting a temporary liquor license for the Columbus Fall Fest. They'll have a beer garden located on the premises. In order to do that, we needed to investigate the liquor license. It turns out all background checks came back fine. And then also attached to this is a very simple short lease for the facility. In order to have the liability coverage, they had to lease the grounds, the public works building grounds. So that's what's in your packets.
Addendum, that's in the addendums.
Yes. A1 and so on.
Okay. Any discussion on that? I need to open this up to the public then, Bill?
Yes, you do.
Any public have any comment? Okay, hearing none. I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny this liquor license request.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Second.
Bill got it.
The recommended conditions are on the second page regarding execution of the lease and then meeting the requirements and conditions of the license.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, next up, we have the MnDOT construction documents on page 5 through 7 of your packet. Elizabeth, you want to frame that up?
Ryan Cunningham is here this evening with us to talk about the construction documents. In this particular case, they're asking to use the property for construction. And Ryan, if you want to come up to the table. The documents that you have before you are the construction, or the right to construct documents, because they have not purchased the property yet, although yesterday I did meet with their real estate person, and so there is, the offer has been presented to the city, it's not been presented to you, but we do have an offer for the property at this time. Ryan, if you just want to explain briefly what this is about, that would be great.
Sure. So we always knew that there was going to be some property from Columbus that was needed. It was part of the layout that we presented way back when. For municipal consent, there was those areas. Good news for the council is through the development of the process, they've eliminated the pond down by Hornsby. I don't know if everybody on the council is aware of that or not. That pond through, I don't know. I mean, through the design build process, they were able to look at it, put some of the water in different areas. They were able to eliminate that pond that has been approved by Rice Creek Watershed District. When that change was made, it forced us to go back and restart the right-of-way process because now we have to reappraise the new property. It's significantly less from the city and put all that back together. And so in the original contract, we had given the contractor the date of September 1st and for the property, and we had asked him to look at removing that pond, and they did that. However, given our timelines, the first document we need signed tonight is just a permit to construct. Basically, that gives us right to get in there and start working in those areas while we iron out the details of the permanent acquisition. So basically, it's all it really says is that you give MnDOT and his contractor the authority to go in there, and I don't know if you go back to that map, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm having a little problems with my computer right now.
It's that little yellow area, basically, that was shown on that plat. And what that allows them to do is to get set up to put the traffic on the north side of the bridge for the winter.
Bill, does that affect our contract that we have on the land?
It does not. You mean no, that's further to the north.
Nothing to worry about there?
Nope.
The northeast quadrant
Yeah.
area, there's a small triangle that MnDOT is looking to take, and we are asking them just to minimize that as much as possible. It's a very small triangle on the northwest
Right, but I
corner.
mean, we have that under contract, so the question is, how does that affect that?
Yeah, I don't believe there's a conflict because I believe the contracting company is to the north of that area. Is that correct, Dennis?
You're talking about the rental from Schaefer?
Right.
Or the,
Schaefer Contracting.
is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, it's under, right, but there's the other pieces under contract too, isn't it? The whole thing?
No, it's subject to public easements, so.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Okay, that's my question. Perfect. Okay. All right, anything else you want to add?
That's basically it. They did, Dennis and Elizabeth did ask us to minimize that taking. I think it's a difference of 1,500 square feet roughly. And there's nothing we can do at this time because time is our enemy. I mean, we're right up against it. So, I mean, what we can do is, what I did offer to do is, first of all, I don't know if the contractor's using that space or not because this is what we gave them to work off of and then they do the final plans. And so their plans might be different than our plans. But if the property isn't being used at the end of the project, we can reconvey that back to the city. And there's just a process and it takes some time to do that. But we just don't, we can't back up at this time and go back through. What we'd have to do is if we did it now, we'd have to reappraise the property and we'd have to also do a replatting of the property, which would take a significant amount of time, which we just don't have. And so we kind of just need to keep things moving.
This qualifies as an easement then?
What-
Correct.
Right, the right of entry is not an easement, but what would follow when we negotiate the purchase would be an easement, a permanent easement.
Okay,
Brian, my understanding is it's, according to the plat, it's not an easement, it's a parcel taking. It's a parcel. You're
We are acquiring easement, Bill's exactly right. We're acquiring easement as the second phase of this. This is a right of entry permit to just get going.
Okay.
And then those negotiations happen after the fact. So the document we're asking for tonight is just that allows the contractor to get in there and do what he needs to do to basically build the project. It just, all it does is allow the city to then enter those negotiations later. So it basically puts the negotiation on the end, on the back end of it.
But it's a permanent right-of-way taking, it's not an easement.
it's not an easement, right?
Yes,
Right.
there's both. There's permanent easement and temporary easement, correct.
so how does that work with our other, I mean, that's under contract now, right?
Yeah, this is, since the government could take the land by eminent domain, we'll get the consent of the property owner. There is a condemnation clause in the purchase agreement
Okay,
with the purchaser, so I don't see a problem. But obviously, ultimately, the MnDOT could take it by eminent domain, which
anyways, so,
should not be necessary.
all right. Anybody make a motion to approve this temporary permit to construct?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion?
So how's that work with is that negotiated in the payment, the final payment of the whole thing? Or does that come out of their end of it afterwards, or how would that?
It's a separate payment for land acquisition, so it's completely outside of any other.
So that would go to the
cost.
city?
Yes.
And then we would reduce that to the potential buyer then?
The land that the buyer would buy would be slightly smaller.
Okay.
Yep.
But the paperwork outlines that we were taking right of way. It was always upfront that we were taking right of way.
Correct.
This project was always upfront. They always knew that there was right of way going to be involved with both MnDOT and Hornsby Street, because at the time, we weren't quite sure exactly where Hornsby Street was going to be either, and so that is in the purchase
That was
agreement.
our right-of-way, not MnDOT right-of-way, so, but they're both covered, we're good.
Right.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Anything else going on in the project that we should know about?
They're continuing to work, as you guys obviously know. We'll be at the Columbus Days. We have some photos that we'll have, if there's power, I don't know, we got to talk, Elizabeth, to make sure that there's power out there. But we have a computer that we can kind of do that. We have some other things that they have planned. I think they're going to have, just so everybody, I think Zan and Associates is our public affairs folks, and I think she said she was going to try to do a 3D model of what a DDI looks like. She had somebody in the office who had an arts background, so, that folks could kind of see how it works and see what it's going to look like when it's done. Other than that, yeah, they're moving right along, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next up, Sheriff's Office, Brian, you want to come up?
It's in the agenda. It's on the right, it's right here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. Again, Brian First with the Sheriff's Office, and my annual contract pitch.
So in your packet, hang just a minute, in your packets, you have, an Anoka County Sheriff's Office handout. And in that handout, is the contract. There's both the 2018 contract and the 2019 contract, in that, because usually someone asks me about both, in there. And then also, we had, Jeff St. Martin look at, calls at the last meeting. The call information was shared with us. And so he took all that information and, broke it down by times and such. And so the pie charts at the end are, the calls for services and what times.
Okay.
So in comparing your, the 18 contract with the proposal for 19, I believe it works out to be a roughly 4% increase from last year's contract. The majority of that, if not all of that increase, is based on contracts for the deputies. Contract negotiation for the 2019, their wage contracts. They went up a fair amount, and then that is what is the increase to the contract. There's no additional ask for any additional coverage or any other fees, but most of that is based on, or the increase you're going to see is based on the wages.
Okay.
Looking through, I know, talking to Elizabeth on the, what we provided last year was 12-hour coverage which was covered by 2 deputies working a 2:30 to 2:30 shift. There was an ask to modify that for this 19. Working with patrol, they would suggest not to, but they will accommodate the request for 12:30 to 12:30. If that's for one of the cars, one of the shifts will remain 2:30 to 2:30. Pulled up January 1st to today's date, pulled additional reports, and I'll provide that. And I think it's comparable to what you had had found. But it does show that by cutting those 2 hours off in the evening, we do miss out on a fairly big chunk of what's considered the priority calls or the urgent calls. And that would be one of the drawbacks. I think your deputy is here when those calls are there. And then just for bidding purposes or for coverage, it would be the only 12:30 to 12:30 contract that we have in the county, or shift that we have in the county. And so for holding people over or getting people to cover that, it will just be a little more difficult.
Okay, Elizabeth, we wanted to do that because there was a reason for that. I forgot what it was.
So looking at the calls for service, if you look at the pie chart and you look at where the calls were, and we've seen this before. So if you look at where the least amount of calls are for service, you'll see it's There's 76% of the calls between 6:30 in the morning and 10:30 at night, and only 24% between 10:30 and 6:30 in the morning. That's overall. So you had 246 calls from 6:30 to 10:30 at night, 76 calls from 10:30 to 6:30 in the morning. If you further break it down, which is the next pie chart, you'll see that from 6:30 to 2:30, you have 103 calls, and then 2:30 to 10:30, it's 143, and again, from 10:30 to 6:30, there's only 76. So there's a fair amount of calls that you're missing, there's fairly significant through midday for us. But if you further break it down and say, okay, where are the calls? You can see that you have 6% very early in the morning, 15%, but that you do have 26% of your calls in the middle of the, day, that 2:30 to 6:30. And then you have 17% both from 10:30 at night to 2:30 in the morning and 10:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. So we had always indicated we wanted 2:30 to 2:30, at least one shift. But we were saying, okay, right now, anybody who, you have 17% of your calls from 10:30 to 2:30, we're not accommodating any of them except with the countywide. By having an opportunity to have another shift, at least you're covering half of them. And we found this is not the only, data that we found this to happen. So it's really, it's, according to the contract, it's up to the sheriff's department to determine what shifts are best based on calls. This is their data that we looked at, and I had asked them if there was some way that we could have a little bit of variety in that. And but at the end of the day, the council, you can, the sheriffs has indicated to you, it's hard on their schedule. They don't have anybody else on that schedule. They used to have a night power, day power kind of thing. When they went to 12-hour shifts, they kind of changed up the whole schedule. So again, there's scheduling issues, so there is a decision to be made. It's either, based on convenience, service, what they're indicating to you, they feel is the best fit. We've had questions on calls before, so Jeff, with his background, was able to look at the types of calls. He was a police sergeant for 13 years, so he knows what they all mean, and he took the data, and this is what he came up with.
Okay. One of the things that came up at the fire board meetings is the responses to medicals, and they were, how'd that go? They were concerned that there's a whole lot of canceled calls in Columbus, because
Who's canceling them?
I think the 911 operators are sending both fire and police or something at the same time, or remember how that went, Mark?
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
we have a much higher cancellation rate than in the Forest Lake area.
Yeah.
So what they're
Who's
saying,
canceling?
this is what's happening. So you have a call, and the Columbus deputy is not on. What the dispatcher is doing is they're calling out fire and police at the same time because they don't know who's going to be able to respond quickest. And so when they do that, they end up, the call goes out, and then when and if a police officer gets there, either coming from Linwood or another adjacent community, then you end up canceling the fire department. But what's happening is you're calling out the fire department when there's not a deputy here. And so what they're saying is they're getting, I forget what the number was, but pretty significant number of calls.
They're worried
that are
about the
canceled.
morale of waking the guy up in the middle of the night and then not having anything to do.
Okay.
So kind of for nothing.
So who would I contact
Al
with the fire
Newman was supposed to
department?
have gotten a hold of you, Al
Yeah,
Newman, fire chief. and-
He's never, I know we had talked at another event and you said he was gonna call me and I haven't.
Yep,
Maybe you might want to reach out to him.
yeah.
Good.
Because the central communication does the dispatching, so the deputies or we're not controlling who gets called out. That's
well,
the
this-
central communication who,
There's some question out whether it's a medical and it's just the ambulance, or whether the fire gets called for lift assist, and there's all these, they had it all broken down. I don't
Okay.
have that with me today, but it'd be good if you could help us get that figured out, because there's a bit of a problem there.
okay. It's Al.
Al Newman? I have his number.
Yes.
Get it to you. Okay, so with that in mind, are we in the business of approving this contract tonight, or what was the plan?
The contract is before you. If you have more questions, I can certainly put it on a, you know what I mean, a different meeting. I know that it's their intent that, that you act
So,
on.
with our new, how many $1 million computer system, are we able to get the call proactive time calculated directly, or is it still?
Well, it's still, the same formula that you don't like.
So we're nowhere closer to what the real proactive time is.
It's, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not to your liking.
It's still the manual system. It's still, you know what I mean? It's still what, yeah, they still do the same call, the same reports.
Yeah, it's the same formula used, based on
National
that.
average.
Based on that formula, you're at 35.50%.
Mark?
Do we have to decide right now about the hours for the contract? Or is that part of the one deal, or is that something?
As soon as their bid books go out, they don't like to reissue the bid books. And I do believe that your bid books are coming out shortly.
Yeah, it's reaching that time of year. I talked to the patrol commander today, and he said if that's what you want, we'll do it. As long as one of the shifts is gonna be the 2:30 to 2:30. If you wanna do the other one, I sat with him today just to prepare a little bit, and it's not gonna be a shift that people want, because when your shift ends at 12 or 12:30, that's when things are starting to ramp up. You're getting the calls, even with your stats, that 11:30 mark, that's when the calls come in. So you're working a 12-hour shift, and there's a good chance that many of those shifts that person's gonna be held over, and then starts again at 12:30 in the morning. It's gonna be a shift that we'll probably get a junior person to fill, because it's not gonna be a sought-after, a 12:30 to 12:30, 12-hour shift is not gonna be a highly sought-after shift.
Why would you change it?
No, I'd say keep
Why
it
would
the
you
same.
want to move it to 12:30? Why not leave it? Because all their stuff happens 2:30 in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Why would you want to move it to 12?
Was that when all
Because
those
the pie chart
cancels
shows
were?
that
Was
that
during the day?
you
I
also
forget
have
what his
It was
things
all hours.
happening
I mean,
from
it varied
10:30
quite a
to
Yeah.
to 12:30. You have as much activity happening in the morning as you do in the in the AM as in the PM. But again,
Different kind of thing, though.
Right.
yes. And so, which is why
And
we're
it
saying
doesn't
is-
show us what the calls are.
I agree, which is why this gives us more coverage, and you serve more of your people with different types of calls. The 2:30 to 2:30, you're right, will serve certain sector of, you know what I mean, people, all of the calls.
Well, we already know that the criminals move around after 11:30, 12 o'clock because they know they're gone.
They're never gone, they've always worked at 2:30 for years now.
Most of the calls that I've ever put into the police sheriff is in the mornings when I come to the garage and find something missing.
Well, exactly, but isn't that kind of after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone.
That's why
You gotta
they're,
report it.
well, that's why they're getting busy at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's calling.
Yep.
Whatever. So the 2:30 shift, 2:30 to 2:30 or whatever it is more desirable.
It's more desirable.
Well, if you've never had the shift from 12:30 to 12:30, how would you know that?
Because it's what he said, they're gonna be held over for overtime. And then
They'll hold over for overtime now. I have deputies here that are here for 16 hours because they have to go to courts, and then they have to go to SWAT training, and they have to do everything else. So we have deputies now that work that many hours.
Up to you guys, I could go either way. I think it's a good idea to switch it up, but I don't know.
I think we should switch it up one year and see if things changes, and you can always go back next year if nobody's satisfied with it.
Yeah, it'd be good to try. I mean, if you want, if it's okay, what do you guys think? Bill?
Sure.
I'm on the fence, so either way, you know.
All right.
I'd
like-
like to see you try it.
Try it, yeah. So I think that's kind of the consensus. We'll take the one shift and switch it. All right, so Elizabeth, were we looking for a motion to approve this, or is it just,
Unless there's some, unless with the contract, we're talking about 2019 contract, unless there's something that you want us to look into, or there's something that you have questions on that you want us to look at, I mean, I can bring it back to the next meeting.
I don't really see it. Do you guys see it?
No, see nothing.
I don't see it. I think we should be expedite this and just get it voted on. Someone want to make a motion to approve the 2019 contract?
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Welcome back.
All right, thank you.
See you on the 22nd.
See you then.
What?
Hopefully we have nice weather like tonight.
Yeah, beautiful out there. Why are we here? All right.
Maybe I can come on my own time and have a beer.
There you go.
It's legal.
It'll be happening. Okay, discussion on the resolution on the 2018 A bond sale project. Elizabeth, do you want to go over what happened there?
You know, I'm gonna turn it over to Tammy.
Tammy?
As she has a good overview. However, before I turn it over to Tammy, we do have some items to go over, and that is, at our meeting on July 25th, it's the only time that I can think of that we only had 3 people at that meeting. And when we looked at approving some resolutions for projects, it was, I did not realize that we needed a 4/5 vote. And so in light of that, our bond counsel has indicated to us that we should, in order to correct the record, to readopt those resolutions prior to Tammy talking about the bond sale. So at this time, what would be before you is the resolutions to correct the record, and they are on page
A6? 8 to 44.
yes.
Okay, so you guys see the resolution on page 8?
Just need a number if you've got it.
Yeah, the first one's 1821.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve or deny resolution 1821?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 4 people said aye. We're good. Okay,
And then the next resolution is 1822.
Yep.
someone want to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve 1822.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. All right.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Tammy Umdahl with Northland Securities. Before you consider approval of the resolution awarding these bonds, let me tell you a little bit about the bond sale. So the city issued on September 6th, pursuant to the resolution that the council adopted back on August 18th, $4,240,000 of general obligation improvement bonds for the purpose of financing $1.7 million of utility improvements. I'll call that new money. And the balance of it, the 2.5 or 2.54 million, was for refunding the 2007 A and B bonds for interest rate savings only. The sale went very well. As part of that process, the city did go through a rating review process, and Moody's Investor Service did affirm the city's A1 rating. It was a very good discussion with the rating agency, and I think the results were favorable. and that helped with the final interest rates. You have in your packet, and Elizabeth will have to tell you which page, she has it up on the screen, a bond sale summary. I will be brief. So the par amount of the bonds was reduced from what you had set on August 18th of $4,390,000 to $4,240,000 because the bonds were priced with premium of $146,000 approximately. The true interest cost came in just under what was estimated. We had estimated 2.97% in August. It came in at 2.92, the final. The savings with respect to the refundings were slightly greater. We had estimated about $14,275, came in at almost $16,500 for the 2007 A bonds. And for the 2007 B bonds, the interest savings comparative was estimated at a little over 62,000, came in at about 70,887 to be exact. So very favorable results. The mayor and Elizabeth did sign the bond purchase agreement on September 6th, last week, following the pricing of the bonds. So you have before you this evening consideration of the resolution awarding the bonds. With that, Mayor, Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
There's only one minor edit to the, if you look on page 18 and 19, to the resolution and the extract of minutes, and that is, there's, in your additions, there's a page in there,
A6.
A6, and it, there's just one, there's the word refunded added to the resolution.
Okay,
So,
resolution number?
yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, when you adopt the resolution, just note that change on page 9 of the transcript, A6 of your agenda. And it would be 1823.
Someone want to make a motion to adopt resolution 1823 with the changes on A6?
So move. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, planning commission report. What do we have for that? Did they meet?
Sorry?
Planning commission, did they meet?
The planning commission did not meet. It was,
Okay.
the meeting was canceled.
All right, public open forum. Anyone here for public open forum? Come on up.
Paul Pescar, 18339 Tulane. Mayor, Council, I was just wondering if we could get a quick update on John's Black Dirt.
Okay, Dennis?
Yeah, I reached out to them last week. We'll be setting up a meeting for a final on-site inspection. Hopefully it was going to be this week, it might be next week. And then see what they have in store for basically the closure.
So have they turned in their final plan, or that's kind of what you're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, I think it'll be based on the discussion we have out there. They have not turned in anything as of yet.
Okay,
You haven't seen any trucks or anything, right?
no.
Stopped.
No, we looked over the fence last week, and there's nothing going on.
There may be traffic, for him finishing up the site improvements that he's doing, but not hauling.
Okay.
Okay,
But Paul, there's nothing going on.
Nothing that I can see. I mean, there's still like a huge stockpile. I don't know if it's topsoil or what, towards the back. You can see when you're looking in the main gate there, but
a lot of what? Weeds. So it's probably dirt, probably.
Yeah, there was a topsoil pile.
I'm assuming
and I'm not
that's
sure if
what it
they've
is.
spread that out yet.
Okay, so Dennis, their plan will be making it ready for lots, or that's what they're gonna try to come up with?
I'm not 100% sure what their ultimate plan is.
What is their plan, Bill, what is their plan supposed to entail?
Mr. Mayor and Council, there is no updated closure plan. The documents that, the interim use permit provided that they would come forward with a closure plan at this time frame as they wound up operations. We've had one discussion, or maybe two, about single-family lots, but they were trying to figure out how to maximize the number of lots, and We have not seen any plans since our last meeting, which was probably March.
March, it is, we've had some discussions with Forest Lake Contracting to have a follow-up meeting. It is their understanding that they will complete the permit process, and it is their understanding is that there is no timing on a closure plan, that the agreement that they had for the interim use permit does not say that they have timing, and right now, they feel that they are going to finish doing all the conditions for the wetland permit, but they're not going to continue with a subdivision at this time.
So the haul-out roads have been lowered but not fully removed? Is that what I heard you say last time?
The ones that were separating the cells?
Yeah.
Had been excavated so that, and I haven't been out there recently, but when the water level's back to normal, it basically covers all those.
Okay, so it will
Those
look
are
like a
submerged,
pond.
submerged benches.
Okay. So what's the time frame on that, Bill? Do you remember?
Well, it was our expectation when we wrote the interim use permit that they would do the closure plan concurrent with the wrap-up of operations. Obviously, we have a difference in opinion on that. In any event, for them to realize any value out of that property, they will have to come forward with some sort of reclamation and subdivision. Otherwise, it'll just simply stay in its current state.
Okay.
But the operations, the mining operations have ceased.
All right.
All right,
But,
thanks.
but the wetlands, the
Restoration.
slopes on the ponds and all that, that's all done?
My understanding it is, but I'll go, when we go back out there physically, we'll see what remains, if there's any stockpiles that need to be spread out yet.
Because when we sat here and talked about this, I thought the pullout date, they were supposed to have all that done, just like Bill said.
Yeah, I don't recall the conditions of the permit, other than the mining excavations had to be done by a certain time.
Will you be out there next week? That was a while ago, but
I'd have to look at the conditions to determine
we'll
that.
have staff review that, and you said you're gonna plan on being out there next week, or?
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from.
Okay, so we'll be
Contractor.
on top of it.
Update next time.
Thanks, Paul.
Great, thanks.
Yep. Anyone else for public open forum? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the motion for the resolution calling for public. What are we trying to do there, Elizabeth?
We have an application before us in the coming weeks. There is a typo in the legal description for Hornsby Street, and there's a preliminary plat that will be scheduled sometime in October for a public hearing. And in order to have that vacation application go through the process, we have to call for a public hearing, and there's a certain amount of days that the notice has to be published. And in this particular case, you need a resolution calling for that hearing. This will start that process so that the preliminary plat and the vacation will happen at the same time. And the public hearing notice is on the second page. There is a typo to it. It's not to vacate a portion of Camp 3, it's actually to vacate a portion of Hornsby Street. The legal description is correct, however. So for a vacation, you're required to do 14 days' notice, and, which is different departure than normal notice, which is 10 days. You have to publish twice, and so it is quite a long period of time. And I think they do that because you're vacating public right-of-way, and so you give a good opportunity for public to be put on notice. And in this case, it was a typo, and so the road, although it's located where it's located, that's not what the legal description says.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, we will essentially get back the necessary the corrected right-of-way as part of the plat document. So this vacates the portion that's outside the right-of-way, or the road is traveled and maintained, and then when the plat comes through, we will essentially get back what we need. We will not file the vacation until we make sure the plat is done and finalized.
Okay. So this would be resolution 1824? Page 45. Do you have a motion to adopt that resolution by anyone?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 18-24.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, engineers report.
Mayor and council, just a brief update on a few of the projects going on. So you heard Ryan Coddington from MnDOT on the 35 design build project. If you've been out there, you've seen they've actually started grading on the south side of 97 and on that northeast corner a little bit. I believe they're going to try to get some of those improvements done this year yet. The ramp closures that are part of the project won't be happening until 2019, where the contract, they're allowed to close the on and off ramps for up to 40 days. And they'll be dropping the old part of the bridge also on a weekend.
In 2019?
I believe so. The county's project, as you've also noticed, has the bypass in place. So those are two separate projects. The Anoka County's project, which is from Holiday West, basically. And they'll be building that roundabout and expect that to be completed this fall yet. We have a meeting on Friday with some of the other stakeholders, MnDOT, the county watershed district on Hornsby Street, which we're in the process of designing the realignment. And that project also includes some of the improvements on 97 going east, and it includes the proposed signal at Hornsby and 97. So the plan for that is to advertise that project this winter, February, March, and that'll be under construction next year as well. Couple other ones, development project, Priner's Preserve, they should be paving the bituminous wear course tomorrow and in the development. And then there's some of the two patches on 147th have some settlement. They'll be fixing those next week if all goes well with the weather and the schedule. And then we'll be meeting on Friday just internally to start discussions on the 2019 street improvements, which would be Notre Dame and 181st, and considering neighborhood meetings for some of the residential streets in the area to see if they want to join in on the project. And also 165th we're looking at. There's also a DNR grant for state park road accounts. So if you have a wildlife management area or area at the end of a roadway, such as at the west end of 181st, we'll be applying to see if we can get any DNR funding to help with the paving of the roadway.
The bypass that going around the roundabout, is there no way for us to repurpose that grade they're putting in there and get a file for something to get a permit? Because it's a temporary watershed permit, but it'd be a shame for them to tear that all out.
I mean, it's not in alignment with our future proposed roadway, but it kind of cuts through at an angle on the city parcel and the other parcel there.
No residual use for that road.
Maybe the piece that'd be right at the northern end of the roundabout, potentially. We can check into that.
I think we should. It's a shame to tear it all out and we have to pay to put it back in.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else?
that's all I had.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I have two items tonight. The first is in the development agreement for the Aces Hotel is in your additions. There was an original development agreement in the main agenda, but since then, we've had a couple of conversations back and forth with the developer's representative. And so I'll just walk you through starting on page A7. I'll walk you through a couple of changes that have been made to this document from, as compared to the one in your packets. So on page A9, which is 3 of the development agreement, there was concern that the city not undertake maintenance of stormwater improvements without notice to the owner, which is fine. In most cases, the owner of the stormwater ponds undertakes maintenance of those ponds, and this is a kind of a super remedy if no maintenance is done. So it would be very unusual, other than an emergency, that there would not be written notice, so we just added that. On page A10, which is 4 of the development agreement, there was a concern about waiving a right of appeal of any costs for those maintenance items. So we struck the waiver of appeal rights. That's our standard language, but I can understand why a property owner would want to have some ability to appeal assessments. And then finally, towards the end of the document, we added a provision on page 813, which is 7 of the development agreement, that if we have to pursue remedies in court, that our fees would be reasonable and as would our costs.
There is such thing as reasonable attorney fees?
I will leave that to your debate. But,
Didn't know that
I believe there
existed.
are, but I might be the only person in the room who thinks that, so.
All right.
So those are the changes that we worked through with the developer's representative, who's here this evening, if there are any questions of him, Mr. Siebert. But if not, then the document's ready for approval, and that will help keep the project on schedule.
Okay, anybody have any concerns, questions?
Is he gonna raise the part for dedication?
No. Nope.
I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny this. What is this?
Make a motion.
Development agreement for the Aces
Development
Hotel.
agreement. Motion
So
to do what
moved.
there?
Approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Daly. Got a second?
Okay, I'll do second then.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
And I believe you're looking at a fall construction start still?
Nice. You still do the pilings? Yes. Piling. Okay. All right, you got one more thing, Mr. Griffin, or no?
One more item, you asked that we bring back a potential moratorium on further permitting of billboards in the city of Columbus. So you have two items towards the back of the agenda, and the first is a resolution which would order a study, and by ordering a study, you would ask the planning commission to look at whether there should be further limits on billboards, whether you would, that's on page 823 of your handout. So that resolution basically calls for a study, and that's required by state statute to ensure that the purpose of the moratorium is to preserve the planning process.
Okay,
And the second item, which is related, is an ordinance. It's called an interim ordinance. A lot of times it's called a moratorium ordinance, but the way it's referred to in statute is an interim ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of permits for billboards. As we always do, there's a possible hardship waiver, so if somebody feels aggrieved, they can come before the council and say that the moratorium works a hardship on them. They'd have to have a pretty significant reason and rationale for a hardship, but I point that out because it's required to have that type of provision in the moratorium ordinance.
okay. Anybody have any questions on resolutions at 1625?
It's 18.
There's a typo in here then,
Yep, 1825.
I thought, okay. Someone want to make a motion to adopt resolution 1825?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 1825.
Second.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. So we have to do two of them, or,
There's an ordinance behind it, that's the actual moratorium.
Okay.
So the first item ordered the study, the second item
That'd be
adopts the moratorium.
1826,
It's 1803.
1803? Okay, someone want to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1803?
So moved.
1803, did you say the ordinance?
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, anything else?
That's what I have, thank you.
Okay. Council report. Danny?
I have none.
None. Mark?
I have nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Columbus Fall Fest? Nothing there?
We have a meeting tomorrow.
Oh.
I mean, next Wednesday, so.
Yeah,
that'll be the
nice,
final
nice.
one.
Nice folder, nice
Nice
poster.
poster, there you go. I had a request that somebody was upset there's no trophies for the car.
That From
We
Dick.
haven't had that in a few years.
Yeah,
Reason we
complaints.
quit it, reason we quit it was just a lot of hassle and
Giving them up? I have somebody who'll donate the money to buy them.
I have somebody too.
Wanted to be
Okay.
Dick, was it Dick?
Yep.
Yeah, he called me too. I told him he could donate to the Fall Fest Fund and maybe do it next year.
Okay,
Kinda late in the year, I know.
Everybody's a winner, Dave.
yeah.
Appreciation or attendance award.
Show up attendance. All right, Bill, anything?
I went through the pancake breakfast Sunday, and they did a great job again, so hats off to the Lions.
Okay,
Good job. Other than that, it's pretty quiet.
all right. I don't think I have anything. Public Works report? Yeah, you guys only come when you want money. You must not want that much, because usually there's three of you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Yeah, Paul's here.
Okay, start with Schedule A.
Schedule A is in the back of the budget.
Schedule
We'd like to go ahead with the scheduled replacement of the 2006 plow truck.
Anybody else want to look at a budget?
Everybody find it there?
Yep.
The amount of $205,000 plus tax and license.
Is that number still good, or, that was a projection, right? Is it accurate?
It was a projection, and then yes,
Higher, lower, or dead?
it is, they came up with a $1,500 tariff and a 2.25% increase over the estimate that I got earlier.
Still within the
This number's
205?
still good, yes.
Okay. Okay, and then the
And then there,
pickup,
excuse me?
then the pickup, right?
Yep, then we're going to replace the 2009 Chevrolet pickup.
It should be less than 50,000 though, right?
It will be pretty close with tax and license.
Is that with the, does it get a new plow or what? Plow frame?
This new truck is a diesel, so that increases the cost.
Is it gonna be used for plowing then? Will it be used for the salt spray? Is it gonna get undercoated to help keep the corrosion down? That's
I think it'd be a good idea.
not a bad idea. I mean, it's, that spray gets all over. Okay. Okay.
How do you want to work this? Do you want to go one at a time, or do you want to do it as a whole?
Elizabeth, can we, I mean, this is a preliminary budget, preliminary levy anyways, right? So,
Well, this is the Public Works, you know what I mean, advisory group making a recommendation to the council.
so we're gonna make a motion, someone to make a motion to purchase these two vehicles, right? And
Well,
that-
you're making a motion to accept their recommendation to
Right.
put it in the capital improvement plan. Once the budget is approved in December, then it gives the authorization for Jim to buy it.
Oh, don't you need to buy it now?
Okay, that was going to be my
Yeah.
next question at the end. But the lead time on a plow truck is
Long time,
a year plus.
yeah.
So the sooner I place an order, it doesn't get paid for till next year, but if you get your name on the list, you
So
order it
that-
ultimately.
The $255,000 has really not been fully collected anyways, right? Because we don't get our disbursements till end of the year.
Nope, the money's in the bank.
But this is for 2019, so we haven't really collected our 2018 money for the 2019 budget.
But you got a balance up
But
at
if you
top.
look at the balance,
So I understand we have the money, but that particular money hasn't been collected, but
It'll be
we're not
collected
gonna.
in December.
It will be collected by the time the truck gets here. So why not order it now? I guess is my question.
You can separately authorize the
Yeah,
purchase.
which is what I think we should do. What do you guys think?
Definitely. Why wait till another half a winter, a year down the road to
Right.
use it?
Trucks are getting harder and harder to get. Demand is,
Well, that's ready to go for next winter, most likely.
yeah,
You should be able to plow with it 2019, 2020.
right. All right, someone want to make a motion to purchase those two vehicles?
So moved.
Okay,
What about the, would that, you need more money though for the undercoating? What's under?
I'm sure he'll fit that in there somewhere, I mean,
I can figure that out.
yeah.
Okay.
Because I have equipment maintenance money and stuff, so I can work that out.
That's the $1,200 or less, I can't imagine that's very much. Okay, all right, we have a second and a motion, any other discussion? All right,
Do we have a second?
I thought you seconded it.
So this is going,
Did Bill
Philcraft
second it?
seconded.
I second it. So the 2009 is gonna take the place of the old Ford. The old F-150 is gonna go. That's what's gonna happen.
That'll be
Well, George?
sold?
Yeah, George is leaving.
It's not worth
Right.
And then the Sterling,
the Sterling.
the plow, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be some revenue somewhere. All right. Hearing no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, move on to the Public Works 120 Fund.
Do you wanna, as long as they're in the back, you wanna do the schedule?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
I just write that, so.
Okay, Schedule B, we want to increase the gravel budget, $5,000 to $30,000.
Did I get shorted or what?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
No, Schedule B, you're in the back.
E.
Dave.
Once I said E.
He said E.
No,
B is in boy.
B is in boy.
Okay.
A, B,
I got
I
it, E.
heard E.
I heard E too. Can we get the guy in the back room to play that back?
He said B.
Okay. All right, we're on B. So 5,000,
Yes, I'd like to increase the gravel budget by $5,000.
okay,
25,000.
okay. It's always a chopping block, so we'll see what happens when we finally approve it, but okay. Anything else in there change?
Nothing else on Schedule B is in boy.
So now the 120 fund, which is page 4.
Increase the small equipment and tool fund by $500 to $2,500. And then increase contract services by $20,000 to $30,000 for right-of-way tree clearing.
Okay, we're not just doing that ourselves, or is there too much of it, or what?
Well, we do some, but some of it is just way above and beyond what we really want to get into, so
Is any of that around power lines or
around power lines, I mean,
big old trees?
I mean,
Okay.
there's some big stuff that is more than what I'd like to get into along the right of way, so. And then we also have projects, so, I mean, hypothetically, next year, we're gonna be doing, Notre Dame and 180 versus a paving project. So it would be nice to clear the right of way at that point. And we, as a city staff, would not in any way, shape, or form get it done before it was paved. So if we were allowed to do this, we could hire it out and then, we could have the right of way cleared at the same time we pave it.
Okay,
And there's just, I mean, we have 100 miles of road right of way that there's no way that we can maintain on our own, so as the years go, the trees get bigger and it just gets to be harder and harder to take care of.
okay, what do you guys think on that? Bill?
I'm okay. I mean,
Danny?
Yeah, fine.
Mark?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we'll adopt that in our budget when we do everything.
That's basically, that's what we got.
Okay. Thanks for all your hard work and clarity.
I had a report from a citizen about Jim. He did he went out and seen him. He did a real nice job, was very professional.
See?
And this guy's a hard guy to impress. I was
Okay.
Impressed by Jim.
Kudos.
job.
man.
Now I know what you're talking about.
Okay, Public Information Coordinator report.
No report.
Report. Okay, City Administrator report.
We have our budget discussion for 2019, and then we also have on the schedule a closed meeting, and I wasn't quite sure what you wanted to take first, but, or how, and if you still wanted to continue in that order.
Let's just finish the budget up, as long as
Okay.
the people are here.
Okay,
Otherwise, they won't hear about it, because they won't come back.
So just as an overview of the budget, What I've given you in your packet is, we talked about the sheriff's department contract earlier this evening. I've put those numbers in, so they are reflective in the budget. And I've also only given you the disbursements at this time, so we can talk about disbursements. And once we know what the disbursements are going to be, then I can plug in the revenue, and then finally the levy. So the summary will come next meeting when I have most of the numbers here. If you look at the first page will have, the proposed 2019 budget, and then at the very end of each subtotal, you'll have a red number, and that's the change from last year to this year as far as budget goes. And I've done that throughout the disbursements. And the reason why I've done that is I've had the opportunity to calculate some tax information with the help of our public finance person. And we, in Columbus this year, or from last year to this year, we had an 8% growth in Columbus as far as tax base. And last year, it was asked of me to do the calculation as a result of that growth, if nothing else happened, by how much could we raise the budget and have a net zero impact. Last year, it was about $120,000 in that range. This year, we've done the calculation. We've had an 8% growth. We project a 9% growth next year. So again, we'll have just as much growth as from last year to this year, from this year to next year. And that brings it to a number in the range of $244,000. So the red numbers do represent the numbers that are the change numbers. What you have within your realm is about $240,000 before you'll see a tax increase. So looking at the first section, the largest increase is in the IT, which is contract services. And that is the way that software and support works now. It used to be where you bought a program, you had the program until you didn't want to use that program any longer. And that's not how software is issued today. Software is issued by licenses, and by how many, and if it's not by licenses, it's how many seats. So depending on what software you're using and buying will determine what your annual cost to software is. And today, you just can't function without.
Our scanning software's in there too now, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that added a little bit.
So but it's everything. It's accounting, it's permit works, we have between 5 and 8 programs today that we function with, whether it's accounting, building permits, Excel, Office 365, how we administer our email and such. I mean, everything runs on a program, and all are license-based. So that's where you're seeing the significant increase in the first section. Otherwise, the budget is the same as 2018.
Okay. Do you want to go over these one at a time? So if we just do administrative expenses yet, these numbers are the 21,980, that is the changes, some of all the changes in the 19 budget proposed, right?
So
That would be, so the 21,980 on section, the bottom of page 1. It's
21,980 is in this section for administrative expenses versus, yes, that's the change. So it's from 2018 to 2019's budget.
Okay.
And that's the primary place where it's, the 15,000 is in administrative wages, and I'm proposing a $15,000 increase overall, and that's where most of the increase is from. The others are just minor increases depending on contracts.
Okay, so page, nothing really on page 2. Page 3, we have $100,000. That was in capital outlay.
Are you on City Hall expenses?
Yep, 3.
That remains the same, so it's 26.7 and 26.7 for 2018
Okay.
budget to 2019 budget.
Okay, anybody have anything else that they wanna?
So city hall expenses are just, your electricity, gas, phone, trash. The senior center, it remains the same. It was 3,618, it's 3,619. It comprises of the liability insurance and repairs.
Okay.
The building inspection, I have not had a chance to analyze. There's a lot of numbers to look there, so that section has not been updated. That entire department self-funds itself. We had significant growth in that department last year, so I don't foresee that it's not funded, but those numbers won't reflect 2018 because Leon went from working 8 to 1 to a full-time equivalent, so the numbers will change from 18 to 19. So we'll see a budget impact, but we won't see a levy impact.
So on page 5, JW, you have nothing in there for street signs? Is that, I thought we were on a plan to replace our street signs because of the reflectivity problem. So why is there 0 in there? Isn't it 0?
You're on page 4?
Yeah. 5 of 10. Or is it somewhere
Oh,
else?
that's in transportation. Yeah. So Public Works street signs would be on page 4, and in that, he's got $8,000.
Oh, okay. Why is it in transportation capital?
Transportation capital is for different types of signs. So Transportation Capital Fund is for more like the roundabout lights, signs that we need in because of projects that we're doing.
Got it.
It's a different type of signage.
Okay, the fire fund, on page 9, that 91,000 includes you're able to do all the numbers and see
So
where we lie?
The Forest Lake the capital match, so I did talk with the fire chief today. He's going with an estimate of $550,000 for new equipment, and that gives us, that range is $130,000 to $150,000 is our portion, because it's an estimate. You know what I mean? So I went with the middle road because I didn't go with the low end or the high end in that one. But if you look at the 3 items, so the $22,500 that we levied last year, we will not have to levy this year because that's the last payment of the ladder truck.
Right,
The $46,000 is what we levied last year as a capital improvement money or dollars.
reserve.
So there's a kind of a net, a net of those, and so now I have just one line item of $140,000. The $142,200 is the joint powers agreement, fire agreement.
Okay, so
So the net change there is $91,120.
okay. Anybody have any other questions?
So I want to go back to the building inspector deal. So there's talk that the truck's going to get replaced in that department too. Where do the dollars show from what's been held over from the last years?
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet that we have that I can email if you want. I have not had a chance to update it. But what it does is we roll the money over, because we have to account for that money within the building department. And that's what we buy computers with and all of the assets in that department. So if there's enough money in there to purchase the truck, it would come out of that fund. And that's how we initially, in 2005, we paid the $20,000 came out of the building proceeds to purchase the current truck.
Right, and so, but there should be, that fund has never gone over.
Throughout the years, that fund, the building department.
Self-funded.
Has been self-funded since I've been here,
Plus.
plus.
Right, so there should be enough funding in there for a truck, I would.
So
Absolutely.
it should do its own pay-as-you-go
Yep.
vehicle.
So we've never borrowed money from elsewhere to pay for the building department. Once they've had the money, we've been able to expend it in the department.
Okay. Guys, any other questions?
No.
Are you looking for a motion to adopt this preliminary budget, or just discussion at this point?
This is just discussion tonight. I'll come back at the next meeting with a preliminary levy resolution.
Okay. All right, I think we put a fork in that one. You have anything else?
I don't have any other questions unless,
Anybody else have any questions
council
for
has
Elizabeth?
questions.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to a closed meeting. So at this point, we have to close a meeting under Minnesota statute 13D.05 subsection 3C.
Oh.
And the purpose, Mr. Mayor, is to consider offers on city-owned property, and so that's an appropriate reason under statute to close the meeting.
Yep, so we, thank you for your attendance.